In 1996, the town of Kankakee, Illinois, was home to James Keene, a man who seemed to have it all. He lived a life of high-speed luxury, defined by fast cash, expensive cars, and an unshakable sense of confidence. To his friends and neighbors, Keene was a charismatic figure, seemingly destined for a long and successful future. Yet, beneath this flashy exterior, he was hiding a dangerous secret involving large-scale drug trafficking operations. For years, Keene operated under the dangerous assumption that he was untouchable, protected by his money and influence. He moved through his life with ease, never suspecting that his world was about to be turned upside down. Unbeknownst to him, federal investigators had been watching his every move, meticulously building a case against him. Evidence began to pile up in the offices of federal agents, and witnesses started to speak out about his activities. The walls were slowly closing in on Keene, though he remained blissfully unaware of the impending disaster. Then, the inevitable happened. A loud, forceful knock on his door signaled the end of his life of luxury. James Keene was arrested and formally charged with conspiracy to distribute narcotics, shattering his carefully crafted image. The government had constructed a powerful, airtight case that left him with very little room to maneuver. Facing the weight of overwhelming evidence, Keene was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in a federal prison. His expensive cars were seized, his influence evaporated, and his freedom was stripped away in an instant. He found himself behind cold iron bars, facing a decade of confinement away from the life he once knew. But prison proved to be only the beginning of a much more complex and dangerous chapter for Keene. Inside the system, his reputation as a tough and well-connected inmate began to grow among the prison population. Yet, nothing in his past could have prepared him for the strange offer that arrived a few years later. Federal authorities approached him with a proposal that sounded almost impossible to believe. They needed him to enter one of the most dangerous institutions in America to extract a confession. The target was Larry Hall, a man suspected of being a serial killer responsible for multiple young women's deaths. Investigators were desperate for evidence, and they believed Keene was the only one who could get close to Hall. The mission was theoretically simple: become Larry Hall's friend, earn his trust, and get him to talk. However, there was a terrifying catch that made the assignment far more dangerous than it appeared. Keene would be transferred to the United States Penitentiary at Marion, a place known for its extreme security. USP Marion was once the most feared prison in the nation, housing the most violent offenders in the system. The facility was infamous for its history of brutal inmate killings and long periods of total lockdown. Inside those walls, trust was not just a social grace. It was a weapon used for survival. One wrong move or a single slip of the tongue could result in a violent death for an inmate. Despite the extreme risks, James Keene agreed to walk into that world and face the unknown. As he settled into his new environment, he began the process of getting close to Larry Hall. The closer he got to the suspected killer, the more disturbing and unsettling the interactions became. Hall spoke in cryptic riddles that were difficult to decipher, leaving Keene constantly on edge. He would spend hours drawing strange, detailed maps that seemed to point toward hidden, dark locations. Hall told bizarre stories about grave sites and missing girls, blurring the lines of reality. Sometimes he appeared harmless, but other times he sounded like a man hiding truly terrible secrets. Keene struggled to determine where the truth ended and Hall's twisted fantasies began. Every conversation turned into a high-stakes psychological battle, testing Keene's nerves and resolve. Meanwhile, prison officials monitored the situation closely, warning Keene about the dangers of his position. They reminded him that if Hall suspected he was cooperating with the authorities, the mission would fail. Even worse, if other inmates discovered his true motives, Keene's life would be in immediate, mortal danger. Day after day, Keene played the dangerous game, listening intently to everything Hall had to say. He spent his time questioning, waiting, and searching for the one statement that would reveal the truth. As the pressure mounted, Hall began discussing specific, gruesome details that only a perpetrator could know. The conversations grew darker and more revealing, pushing Keene further into the killer's mind. For Keene, the mission had evolved into something far more significant than just a path to freedom. It became a harrowing journey into the psyche of a man many believed was a prolific serial killer. Eventually, after months of tension, Keene successfully completed the assignment and left the prison. His cooperation played a vital role in the ongoing investigation, providing the evidence authorities needed. Because of his efforts, he was granted an early release, finally walking out of the prison system. Years later, Keene decided to share his incredible story in his memoir, In with the Devil. The book became a massive success, eventually serving as the basis for a major television production. The 2022 series, titled Black Bird, brought his story to a global audience, starring talented actors. The show depicted the intensity of the undercover operation and the psychological toll it took on Keene. It highlighted the strange, dangerous dynamic between a convicted drug dealer and a suspected serial killer. The series drew worldwide attention to one of the most unusual operations in American prison history. A drug dealer, a suspected killer, and a maximum security prison created a perfect storm of tension. It remains a mission where a single failure could have cost a man his life in the blink of an eye. Even today, the story stands as one of the most extraordinary true crime cases ever documented. It serves as a chilling reminder of the dark, hidden dangers that exist within the American prison system.